Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right, we return. Segment 2 of our 3-hour show today. I want to thank those of you who are up early and spending time with us. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host this morning, and I'm joined by my friend Mike. Mike is a friend of ours who comes in on Saturday mornings and helps out here and provides some insight and little humor sometimes. That's because he's funny looking.
Oh, thank you.
You know, Mike and I have faces made for radio, so that's why we do this show. We are joined this morning by Dave Dougherty. Dave is an expert on the area of Agenda 21, and specifically also the issue of the new Blueways, which have been shoved down our throats, or are being shoved down our throats. And he's part of this effort that we've put forth to block and stop the Blueways Agenda 21 implementation here in the 18 million acres they're taking over in southern Missouristan and northern Arkanistan. And so I want to bring Dave on with us and discuss this. He's going to spend the remainder of the show with us, and I think you'll find it to be an interesting and enlightening discussion. Good morning. How are you, Dave?
Yeah. Good morning, Michael.
You know, Dave, you do a radio program down in Mountain Home, and you also have a business down there. You are the owner and the purveyor of SurviveUSA, which can be found on the web at SurviveUSA.biz. And your program down there is really, you've got a very broad store down there that covers a ton of ground. And so I haven't actually been down there myself, and I'm aiming to get down there, but I want to make sure that you're there when I go. So, but I wanted to introduce you to our audience and give you an opportunity to talk with us a little bit about this Blueways thing, because this thing is extraordinarily dangerous for our area. It is the kind of thing that, from the perspective of those folks who live in this area, we are going to rue the day if we ever let this thing take hold. And I wanted to get your insight and input as to where we are and what's happening with that. So before we get into that, I just want to mention one thing. Today is the 26th annual West Plains Car Club, Wheels and Deals 2013, and there's a car show that's going on today at the West Plains Civic Center, and they're going to have a bunch of different cars out there that are on display. There's some cars that are there for sale, and there'll be a lot of trophies awarded, and it'll be a great opportunity if you'd like to bring your kids and your family. This is a perfect opportunity for them to come down, see some historic vehicles, and it's a great opportunity for you and your family to spend an afternoon together and get the kids away from the computer games. So anyway, if you get a chance, come down to the Wheels and Deals Car Show, June 8th. That's today at the West Plains Civic Center. And if you have a classic vehicle, bring it down and maybe enter it in one of the contests. Okay, so let's talk about Blueways, because we've had a conference call that we had last week. I know you were a participant in that. We also had Dr. Michael Kaufman on there, and we also had Tom DeWeese on there. And, you know, you guys have been in the forefront of this fight against Agenda 21 and Blueways, although not Blueways because it's so new, but the Agenda 21 issues. Can you talk a little bit to our audience about the Blueways issue, what you perceive it to be, and from previous implementation that we've seen up in Connecticut and one that they were trying to do in Wyoming at the Yellowstone, which, by the way, they fought back and defeated, or at least temporarily. What your expectation is of what the federal government will do once they make this massive land grab?
Well, probably the best thing to look at to understand what will be happening to us if this land grab is an actuality is a series of regulations that we put together, or collected, I guess is the better word, from the Connecticut Blueway. And it's 840 pages, single-spaced, just jam-packed with rules and regulations that the people must adhere to. Now, that Blueway was the first one. It was decreed back in May of last year, along with Secretary Salazar's announcement of his Secretarial Order 3321, which started this whole thing. Of course, this was in response to President Obama's Great Outdoors Initiative. And if anybody thinks that that's a good thing, they need to take a heavy look at it, because essentially what it does is it takes away your liberties and your right to private property to use as you see fit throughout the United States, but most particularly in rural areas. Rural areas really are Obama's Achilles heel, and very honestly, he's coming after us with hammer and tongs.
Yeah.
Well,
the Blueways in Connecticut generated so far, I think it's almost 900 pages of regulations. Now, they state emphatically in their documentation that this is not doesn't create any new laws, any new rules, any new administrative agencies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
But that's an absolute unmitigated lie.
That's totally untrue. Totally untrue. And it's really interesting when you read the Memorandum of Understanding that the feds promulgated for all Blueways. It's a general MOU, because they make those statements and they have a disclaimer in there, as you stated, that it is not intended to create any new things. But at any rate, then they go on, and a third disclaimer on down is one that they throw in so that they can't get sued for anything. And they say this MOU is not intended to and shall not be used for. So they have another clause behind there that absolutely closes the door on any possible suits. But then when they talk about it is not intended to create any new regulations or impinge upon private property, they do not include that second clause. So, that's a wonderful omission that, so it's not intended to. But if it does, well, gee, that's the breaks of the game. And after all, this is a moving target, and as things change, different things have to happen. This whole thing, of course, was done, I like to say in the dead of night, but that is a little bit of hyperbole, because I don't know what time of the day or night it was done. But it was done in secret. And it was done all by people who were not elected. The vast majority of it came out of NGOs and federal government agencies, and, of course, some state agencies. One of the driving forces, of course, was the Nature Conservancy, and there are some others, like the Audubon Society. Those NGOs are not regional in scope. They're not even national in scope. They are international in scope.
Right.
And so we're just little teeny people out here that they're going to say, look, we're the people who really know all about this. And, you guys are standing in the way of conservation and restoration, because the two things that are repeated throughout every document with this Blueway is restoration of wildlands and conservation. The purpose is, and the thing that they say all the time, is that they are going to introduce a land and water management system. Now, a land and water management system, that means regulations.
Right.
I mean, pure and simple.
You can't have one without the other.
No, you can't. So when they say they're not going to promulgate any regulations, I have some land in Florida.
Actually, I think the way they do that, Dave, is they say that they're not going to promulgate any regulations out of the Department of the Interior. But what they do is they let all these other stakeholder agencies, the conservation departments, in the case of Missouri, it'll be the DNR, which is the Department of Natural Resources. It'll be the state conservation body. It'll be the Army Corps of Engineers. What they do is they say, well, this won't result in any new promulgations from us. Okay, we get that, right? But that just means the Department of the Interior. So, like everybody, one of the things that we talk about with our listeners all the time is critical thinking skills and reading between the lines of when liars like this are speaking, because this stuff is written by lawyers for lawyers, and the average person doesn't hear when they're making a statement like this that goes where if you read between the lines, you see exactly what they're getting to. Our listeners are actually completely different than that. We practice the critical thinking and critical reading and critical analytical skills that are necessary in order to understand exactly what's going on around us. And if you take the examples that have been used before, first of all, you can look at the Blueways, just taking a Blueways example, but there's only one, and that's the one in Connecticut. 900 pages of regulations, none of that promulgated by the Department of the Interior, all of it promulgated by all these other agencies that
Sure.
Didn't promise not to create new rules and regulations. But when you look at other historical places that have been taken over,
even the Department of Interior is not. They're not promising additional regulations. All they say is it is not the intent to make new regulations.
I get it. And then they'll come back up later and say, well, that wasn't our intent, but since this situation is so critical, we must take action.
Exactly.
Right. Now, if you look at like Adirondack Park in New York, and I don't know, you're not from New York, and I grew up in New Jersey, but, Adirondack Park, started out to be this wilderness area. Now it's bulked up, and the New York DEC is their enforcement arm. And let me tell you, you can't go up there and take a deep breath without getting a permission slip or somebody turning around and hammering you for making a false move, if you will. We see the same thing in the Mark Twain National Forests around here, where everything that you do is regulated. All the land use around it is regulated. When they did riverways up here, they came in and said, we're not going to create a whole bunch of new regs. But now, of course, they're going to the farmers and they're saying, you got to build a fence 100 yards back from the edge of the water because your cows can't pee or poop anywhere near the water. And you've got to have, this buffer zone between your agricultural crops and your insecticides and your pesticides and your fertilizers.
No, that's BS.
That's BS. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment, folks, with Dave Dougherty. Hang on one second. We'll be right back.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number.
Call 877-509-MY-TV.
The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money.
Call 877-509-MY-TV.
Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free professional installation. And the best part, the pristine digital picture and sound.
Call 877-509-MY-TV.
So, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit
call
card.
877-509-MY-TV. 877-509-MY-TV.
Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more.
Call 877-509-MY-TV. 877-509-MY-TV.
Okay, we return after that capitalistic moment. So, for the record, just so I can help you folks who are just coming on the show, because I know some of you are late sleepers. I've been up since 5. But I just wanted to introduce you to Dave Dougherty. Dave is the owner and the purveyor of Survive USA, and he does a talk show called Through the Looking Glass. Every, I think it's Sunday you do that, right, Dave?
Right, Sunday at 1 p.m.
Sunday at 1 to 2 p.m., and it's called Through the Looking Glass. And this is on Mountain Talk Radio 97.1.
Yes.
And that's down in Mountain Home. What's interesting is that you have written a book called A Patriot's History of the Modern World. And you're predominantly a historian.
Actually, there's the book's in 2 volumes. The second volume is coming out in December. The first volume, which came out last year, and I'm a co-author with Larry Swikert, who a lot of people know because they've seen him on the Glenn Beck Show at a number of times.
Yeah.
And by the way, Larry and I are going to be out in Salt Lake City here over the 4th of July. Glenn asked us to come out and take part in his Man in the Moon event. So, and we'll have a booth out there, and we'll be hawking those books. And,
Sure.
and then I also wrote another one earlier than that, A Patriot's History Reader, Essential Documents for Every American. It's just a paperback, but it has 55 documents and speeches and whatnot in our history what essentially have made us who we are and affected us the most. From Obama, of course, I selected his Cairo speech. And not all of these documents are really great documents in terms of enhancing our liberties, but they are things that have really affected us. So,
sure.
Yes, I'm an historian, and so I tend to take an historian's view of things, and I do my homework, and I always look back to where things came from and how they happened, rather than just looking at the here and now, and that is the viewpoint I bring to this thing.
Right.
For instance, Michael, right in my hand here, I have a letter dated August 24th, 2012, from the National Wildlife Refuge Association, where it's to the Department of Interior, which is the nomination letter, the one that really put this all in gear. And if I could, I'd like to just read a little bit of it.
Sure.
The National Wildlife Refuge Association is pleased to nominate the White River watershed in Arkansas and Missouri for designation for a national blueway. NWRA makes this nomination on behalf of a capable and accomplished sponsoring partnership that includes 4 national nonprofit conservation organizations, actually they're international, 3 federal environmental agencies, the Lower Mississippi Valley Joint Venture, 3 state wildlife and environmental agencies, and 2 watershed communities, all of which are committed to the goals and objectives for the proposed national blueway as articulated in the nomination. This nomination, by the way, is 63 pages, and they go on and on this about how important this watershed is for conservation, and it needs to be restored to its natural habitat for wildlife. Now, you might notice that the one thing missing here are any elected representatives and any property owners.
Right.
This is all being done from the outside. People could say, well, that's really a nefarious scheme, and the answer is, well, I suppose you can use that term. Nefarious or not, these people are just doing what they do. They're promoting conservation, and they have no affinity or cares about your personal rights or your property rights. And one of the things that we learned from the 1996-1997 Ozark Highlands Man and Biosphere project that
was the precursor to this.
That's the precursor, and there are a couple of others, but that's the main one. But 17 years ago, they tried to do literally this exact same thing, and it was defeated by citizen uproar. I mean, the citizens just rose en masse, and there wasn't a politician that could withstand that. I mean, they all just ran and scurried and hid underneath their desks. And we have to do that again. Although, as a practical matter, no politicians are involved in this except at the presidential level, because this was done from President Obama, but it was given to his Secretary of Interior to run with, and from that point on, from that Secretarial Order 3321 of May of last year, everything has come forth. He has empowered these national and international agencies to nominate your property for federal regulation and control, and for their regulation and control, by the way, without informing you in any way. There were no citizen meetings on this, no information meetings, nothing going out.
No one was invited to have public comment on this.
No.
None of the real stakeholders, that would be the folks who live here, own the property here, run businesses here, farm here, run livestock operations here. None of those people were invited. And this was
were totally ignored. They view us as simply stewards of the property for them.
Right.
It's not that they don't recognize. Wait a minute. Let me back up a little bit here. you have to understand that in the world, private property is generally unknown.
Right.
We are one of the very few nations in the world that recognizes the sanctity of private property, and that somebody actually owns private property and has deeds associated with that so that they can actually use it and borrow money on it. It can be used as collateral, and that's just simply unknown for the vast majority of the world's inhabitants. And our concept of private property, which starts all the way back into the colonial days, particularly James Otis in 1761, when he said that no king or parliament could deprive a man of his life, liberty, or property. There it was. You have to have property to be able to have freedom. If you're not allowed to have property, you don't have any freedom.
Right.
Forget about everything else. And it's just that simple. So the first thing they attack is private property, and that's what they've done here. Now, with the Biosphere program, there's a post-mortem study done, by the way, on our nickel by the University of Missouri at Columbia, and it discusses this problem, that the people were against it. And they say, well, the people were successful in changing the debate from the environmental issues, conservation and restoration, to one of freedom, individual liberty, and private property. Well, yes, the people were able to change the debate to looking at our rights and our private property from the rights of the conservationists to essentially control our property. So they really were upset about that, and that post-mortem told them how to do it the next time. In fact, it says that when we do this again, we have to take certain steps. They also mentioned that, and that rollout, by the way, the people were not involved. It was done the same way as this one, but they say that that's the right way to do it, because otherwise we don't want the people to raise issues that will stop the project too early. They need to be kept in the dark as long as possible. Well, that's exactly what happened. So, it's really mind-boggling that you have a federal government that says, okay, in order to keep the people sedated, we're not going to tell them what's going to happen. So they can only come in at the very last hour when it's too late to do anything. This is a government that's not of the people, by the people, and for the people. This is a government that is against the people. And it is that simple. I mean, when you read these documents, your mind just wants to explode.
Yeah.
It's like, how can they do this? But they did.
And I encourage all of our listeners to make sure that they are consistently spending time reading instead of, watching television or reading newspapers, because the main media and the mass media, the Ministry of Propaganda, as I refer to them, is not really giving us the information that we need. And there is no way for folks to understand exactly what's going on in our nation unless they're using their critical thinking skills and reading what's going on around us. And, it's amazing, with a little bit of study, with a little bit of research, with a little bit of homework, how much smoke you begin to peel away from the facts. And when we talk about things like what's going on here with this Blueways, if you just take the time to read their documentation, all of a sudden the light bulbs start going off, because you realize what a betrayal this is of everything that we've ever understood to be our rights, our liberties, our principles, our foundational ideals. And what we see is this constant diatribe of betrayals over and over and over again, with things like, these rules that, first of all, I don't know who Ken Salazar that thinks he has executive authority to do anything.
Well, he has it from the president. The secretary.
Okay, but wait a second. The president doesn't have the right to delegate executive authority to anyone. See, that's
actually he does.
Well, actually, he doesn't, and I'll tell you why I'll disagree with you on that. This is the same crap that we get with administrative agencies, where the Congress says, well, we delegated authority to those administrative agencies. You cannot pass on a power of attorney. If I give Dave a power of attorney to act on my behalf, that means that Dave can act on my behalf. But you can't give it to your cousin Charlie, who has no fiduciary responsibility to me, and expect that that's going to hold true. We're going to take a break, folks. We'll be right back, and we'll continue this important discussion.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Fox News Radio confirms that 3 Americans have been killed in eastern Afghanistan by men wearing Afghan military uniforms. One attacker was killed, another captured. This after NATO defense ministers met this week to discuss what happens after troops pull out of Afghanistan in 18 months.
Pentagon Chief Chuck Hagel said the U.S. was committed.
The United States is committed to being the largest single contributor to this mission and to being the lead nation in the East and the South.
He praised Germany and Italy, who have pledged to serve in the West and North.
Fox Radio's Emily Wither.
Afghan military and security forces have suffered heavy losses in recent weeks.
Police in Santa Monica, California say a gunman who's believed to have killed 4 people acted alone. They say he killed his father and brother in what started as a domestic incident, then shot and killed 2 other people before being shot dead himself. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Get a hold of Brian down at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. You can call him at 870-492-4030, or you can find him on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. Located a half-mile east of Walmart and Route 62 in Mountain Home. My friends over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery at 255-2253, number 2 Evans Arcade off the square in West Plains. Best damn bakery in 100 miles. You can reach Mary at 255-2253. My friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 293-0116. Whether remodeling or doing new or custom construction or light commercial, Bill's the guy for you. 293-0116. West Plains Pawn and Gun, located on Route 160, just about a mile east of Walmart on the right-hand side. westplainspawn.com. You can also reach them by a telephone at 417-256-3000. Friends over at the battery station at 303 Washington Avenue, right off the square in West Plains. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com, and you can call them at 417-257-7799. Also, don't forget to stop by Pizza Hut for an outstanding lunch special between 11 and 2. Salad and pasta all together. You can also visit them on Tuesday evenings for family night. Kids eat free under 12. And Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop, the sponsor of our telephone line. Make sure that you see Wits End Classic Barbershop for your next shave and a haircut. Outstanding, fine young man and a great patriot as well. He's on the square in West Plains.
Having difficulty with your computer? Do you think it has a mind of its own? Well, don't be alarmed. This happens to everyone at some point in time. Worry no more. Computer Dave and Kyle can help you out with PC Geeks, a weekly show right here on 107.1 The Point. Tune in Thursdays at 1 o'clock to ask computer-related questions and listen to the web topic of the week. That's PC Geeks here on 107.1 The Point.
Whether sponsorships are available for your business or organization, call Josh at 255-2548 for more information, or email info@diamondmediaradio.com.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we expect sunny skies on a high of 79 today. Unity Party cloudy overnight with a low of 60. There's a good chance of showers and thunderstorms on Sunday. Unity Party sunny with a high of 81. Monday will kick off the week with mostly sunny skies and a high of 84. Again, today's high 79, and I'm Rod Tanner. And for more information, visit my 1071thepoint.com.
Kim Commando, a.k.a. the Digital Goddess, keeps you plugged in with a daily feature. Kim Commando's Digital Minute. This segment keeps you informed with what's going on in the technology world, along with new tips and tricks to use at home to improve those computer skills. Catch Commando at 7:22 a.m. during Cooper & Company on the Ozark's Best News Talk. If the feature has you craving more, join Kim, the Digital Goddess, Saturdays from noon to 3 on the Ozark's Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
Okay, we're back. We're speaking this morning with Dave Dougherty. Dave is the purveyor of Survive USA. He's also a historian and the author of a couple of books. He is an especial crusader against Agenda 21 and the Blueways issue. Before we took the break, I wanted to raise this issue about the way in which the Department of the Interior and these administrative agencies, who are also the stakeholders here, at least the governmental stakeholders, these folks act as if they have the authority to promulgate a damn thing, when in the reality of this is very clear. We as the electorate, we as the voters, we the people have delegated limited power of attorney. In other words, we've delegated limited authority to our representatives to act on our behalf, and it must always be on our behalf in a fiduciary principle manner. They, on the other hand, have taken that authority and usurped it and said, we can now hand that power of attorney off to an agency, and you can pick any three-letter agency you want because they're all the same, and that agency can go about promulgating rules that parade about as law, and in fact are not law. They are rules made by an agency which has no accountability to Congress and, frankly, has no accountability to the American people. And that is a betrayal of everything that the concept of a republic is based upon. There's absolutely no reason or methodology for our elected representatives to think that they could take a power of attorney and hand that off to someone else who doesn't have a fiduciary responsibility to us and isn't responsible or accountable to us. In other words, if I said to you, Dave, hey, I'm going to give you a power of attorney to act on my behalf while I'm out of town, and I want you to go out and close this real estate deal for me. Here's a checkbook, and I authorize you to sign a check and to sign on the real estate documents for me. That's great, but that doesn't mean that Dave can also take my checkbook and go out and buy a brand new car. And it also doesn't mean that Dave can take my checkbook or, worse yet, hand it off to his cousin, who then goes out and buys a new car, takes his girlfriend to the Bahamas on my dime, and then signs the property over to himself. You get it? I mean, that's the implication of what we're talking about here. And by turning over the authority, the limited scope of authority that we've given to Congress, they have no right to redelegate that or delegate that on further down the line to someone who has no accountability to us, and frankly that we don't know or haven't elected.
Well, I don't disagree with you at all. And this is an undevelopment, a very unfortunate development in our history.
Well, all administrative agencies are extra-constitutional. That's my point.
Well,
they're outside the constitutional boundaries.
But almost everything the federal government does is extra-constitutional.
Well, I won't disagree with you there.
They always come back to the Welfare Clause and
Commerce Clause.
And the Commerce Clause.
And the Supremacy
Clause.
Clause.
Those have been expanded beyond all recognition.
Of course.
It is simply, so my point as a pragmatic historian, I say it just is the way it is. It is what it is, regardless. Yes, they've usurped power. No question at all. And the federal government has usurped that power. The president has powers today that were never thought of back by the framers. Never, ever, ever.
Of course.
Nor did the framers believe that the Supreme Court would ever be as powerful a body and a lawmaking body at that as it is today. So, they never thought that a court appointee would oversee school integration, for instance, or anything like that.
Right.
And the court, of course, has taken the Constitution and reversed parts of it. If you look at the First Amendment with respect to religion and the Establishment Clause on religion, in the court's ruling in Everson versus the Board of Education in 1947, they reversed the meaning of that. Instead of protecting religion from government, they changed it, and they made it to protect government from religion. And if you look at those types of things, you say, well, yeah, that's one of the reasons that Ben Franklin said that what he did with respect to we've given you a republic, let's see if you can keep it. And you've had this usurpation going on for 200 years. You mentioned nullification before. You've got to go back to the original nullification battle, Andrew Jackson versus John C. Calhoun, and with South Carolina, which Calhoun lost. Jackson won. The states then learned that they could not nullify unless the federal government tacitly approved. We have nullification going on all over the United States right now.
Well, I'm going to
go like sanctuary cities, but that's with the tacit approval of Obama and the Justice Department. If you try to nullify, as Arizona has at times, something that the feds don't want you to nullify, they come down on you like the wrath of God.
Well, isn't it
and
amazing
win.
that they allow nullification in things like sanctuary cities and marijuana in Colorado and Washington State, right? And California. They allow that nullification, and that's clearly what it is. You can, the liberals will try to argue it's something different, but it isn't. Anytime a state says a federal law is unconstitutional and we're not going to exercise it and or execute it, that is nullification. Now, and yet when Kansas passes the Second Amendment Preservation Act, Eric the Traitor Holder has the unmitigated gall to go over there and threaten Kansas. And I have to tell you, I've read to our listenership the response from their Attorney General, and the thing was magnificent. Now you've got the same thing in Colorado with this gun law, and the people are uprising trying to remove this piece of trash, Hickenlooper and their head of their Senate, for what they perceive, and rightly so, to be. Now this is citizens nullifying state law, which is also the same principle, I might add, because there is no final arbiter of the Constitution, whether it's state or federal, except we the people. We are the final arbiters, no court. And our founders made it very clear, abundantly clear. The Supreme Court is never the final arbiter because they are beholden to the federal government and they're a part of the federal government, and therefore they would always fall down on the side of tyranny.
Well, Michael, you're absolutely right. However, that does not alter the reality that is the way the government operates. I mean, I always harp on the four pillars of American exceptionalism. Protestant Christianity, the sanctity of private property, free market capitalism, and common law. Common law is law that comes from God to the people, and then the people, through their customs and through their actions, cause the law to be made, and then they elect representatives who absolutely codify that law and then administer it on behalf of the people. That was the way we were founded and set up to be. That is not the way it is now. Most lawyers in the United States prefer to operate as if they're running under civil law, where law comes from God to the elites, and the elites then make that law, and it descends on the people to obey as administered by the elites. When Nancy Pelosi said, we just created a new right, the right to health care, okay, she was usurping the prerogative of God, and believe me, Nancy Pelosi is not God.
Oh, boy.
However, that was
if that were the case, I want to go to hell. If Nancy is God, I want to go to hell.
That was a total denigration of the founders' principles.
Wait a minute.
And a total misstatement of common law. She has no idea what common law really is or how it should operate, how it was intended to operate. But all of that is really an academic discussion, Michael.
Hey, Dave, Mike Walters. When you talk about Nancy Pelosi, are you talking about Miss Quick Lube 1955?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Is that was her title? You're kidding me.
Oh, no. You haven't seen the picture?
No.
Let's mention, by the way, Agenda 21. Are you aware that the year after the Rio Declaration was signed, in 1993, Nancy Pelosi authored a bill in Congress to put Agenda 21 in practice in the United States?
Yes.
True. That is true. Okay? Nobody knows that. But this person is a fascist. I don't call people like this statists anymore because that's too confusing. People always ask me, what do you mean by statist? And I just simply call them what they are.
Yeah,
fascists.
That's good. That's good.
Because they are fascists. Now, I don't mean the fascism that people automatically associate with Hitler with the racial component. I mean the fascism associated with Mussolini, that Mussolini first identified, which contains socialism, nationalism, and state capitalism.
Right.
Oh, that's very good. That's very
okay.
Good.
And the only difference I throw onto it now is say these fascists are not for nationalism. In fact, they decry nationalism. But what they are for is a supranationalism.
Right.
A globalism.
Right.
Supranationalism, with, of course, themselves running it. So I don't call them Nazis. I call them Snazis. for supranational socialists.
I like that.
Nazis.
Now,
Very good.
yeah. You start calling them Nazis and watch the reactions. Because they normally say, well, the right are the Nazis. No, they aren't. The right is on the side of the people. The left is the one against the people.
Sure. All right, we're going to take a quick break, folks. When we come back, we'll speak more with Dave Dougherty. Dave, at some point, we probably want to take calls. My phones are going off the hook here. Everybody wants to throw in their 2 cents.
And we can't get away from the Blue Way, too. So
Right, and I think we want to go back to that Blue Way thing because while it's Agenda 21, it's all tied together. Folks, we'll be back in just a minute. We're speaking with Dave Dougherty from Survive USA Today and an author on Agenda 21, Blueways, and others.
Farmers Insurance Agency in Willow Springs is celebrating their 1-year anniversary.
They're number one, growing.
Join agent Cynthia Ramsey Friday, June 14th from noon to 2 for the celebration. Bring the kids for birthday cake, ice cream, and sidewalk games. They'll also have pie, cobbler, and plenty of door prizes. Come and celebrate Cynthia Ramsey's Farmers Insurance Agency's 1-year anniversary. Friday, June 14th from noon to 2, 123 East Main Street in Willow Springs.
They're number one, growing.
The Government Accountability Institute has conducted an analysis of how much time this president has spent in economic meetings of any kind. For instance, how much time has he spent golfing compared to economic meetings?
Between golf and vacation, he's at 976 hours.
That's only more than double the time of what he spent on the economy.
But he won't rest.
Until people have jobs and this economy is rolling again.
This is the Glenn Beck Program. Weekdays from 2 to 5, it's Glenn Beck on the Ozarks' Best News Talk 107.1.
The VA Refinance Program is a government-backed mortgage rate reduction loan for retired veterans and active duty service members who have already bought a home with a VA mortgage loan. The VA Streamline option is a fast, simple, and hassle-free way to refinance your current VA home loan and save money with low current rates, the lowest in decades. Whether you have a fixed or adjustable rate loan, now is the time to refinance and lower your interest rate or get additional cash out of your home. Want to know more? Call the Center for Sound Consumer Advice today at 1-800-593-6406. Get their free consumer protection guide, VA financing, everything there is to know. Free while they last to anyone that asks. But this opportunity won't last forever. Call 1-800-593-6406. And if you would like, the center can arrange a free consultation for you with an experienced, trustworthy mortgage professional to discuss your unique personal situation. Call now. 1-800-593-6406. That's 1-800-593-6406.
Okay, we're back. We've got to do the capitalistic moments, folks, because that's what keeps our show on the air. Please make sure that you are supporting our sponsors as well. I just want to, before we bring Dave back on, we've got a caller who wanted to jump on the air with us and had a comment about it. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yes, Michael. I was reviewing the Constitution the other day, and we're having a family discussion amongst my fellow members,
Yep.
An item came up that we were discussing, and the fact is that the only courts that can be established constitutionally is the Supreme Court. It's the only one stated. The other ones can be set up and administered per Congress.
They can set up inferior courts, yes.
Yes.
So
now, my point is this. Obama came on the other day and was basically challenging Congress to appoint judges that hadn't been previously, federal judges that previously hadn't been appointed.
Right.
All right. Now, my simple question is, if Congress has a problem with this, and I'm getting to the administrative agency thing with this, is why do they just simply not disapprove the court? I mean, just say, no, you can't do that, we're not going to do this, and period.
Well,
I mean, just kill it dead. If it comes to that, if it's the presidential usurpation of authority over Congress, then Congress should just simply withdraw it from him.
That would require that Congress actually had an alternative agenda to this president, and that's apparently not the case.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm talking theoretically. They made politics out of something here that really the president should be asking, would you please appoint my judges so that I can get something done, rather than saying you're going to do this or else.
Well, right, but no tyrant has ever been known to ask for permission. That's why they call them tyrants. And, Congress at this point is complicit in this whole thing. And that's why we're never going to see that kind of change come down, especially when it comes to courts and, talking about administrative agencies. This is the power model they've built, right? And they're not going to divert from that model because at this point, Obama is the last in a long line of tyrants who have been running this relay race. He's the last guy to be handed the torch. He's the sprinter at the end of the race, right? He's the guy who can pour on the power. And right now, he can read the fine print on the yellow tape across the finish line, and it says "Made in China." Printed in China.
He's put an obstacle course in his way.
That may be true. So we might call it a hurdle relay. But at the end of the day, he can see the finish tape, and he's racing for it. So, and Congress is actually, because for whatever promises they've been given that they'll have a seat at the ultimate table, that whatever this shakes out to be in their fantasy land, that's just the nature of this beast, and we're never going to see Congress come about and make changes. And that's why I wrote that article called 90 Days That Will Change the World, because if we don't, we need to act as a mass civil disobedience. Thank you, by the way, for that thought. We need to act as mass civil disobedience and literally starve this beast to death. And the best way to accomplish that is to cease commerce and freeze the marketplace so that our tax dollars, and stop paying our taxes, so that our dollars are not going to fund our own enemy. And I open the discussion, Dave, to your thoughts on that. But and then march on Washington and say, we're not leaving until you do, and we're scrapping this entire debacle, and we are going to hold an emergency election to put all new representatives back in Congress who have not ever been in congressional positions before and have not had government seats, and all of you minions who are federal agency employees and are oppressors and are minor slave whippers, you're all out of here. That's it. We're done. We're starting over as a constitutional republic again. And in light of these changes that we've just had coming out here, or the news that we've just had coming out of all of this surveillance and monitoring, anybody at this point who's not aware of the fact that tinfoil hats, which I was accused of wearing a year ago, are now in vogue, I don't know what to suggest. I guess you really truly are blind. Even the liberals are screaming bloody murder about this. And the only way that we're ever going to take this back, there's no more political solutions here, Dave. We are beyond the concept of being able to vote in or out anything, because they no longer follow our lead as a representative and do what we want. Missouri here, Claire McCaskill, 71% of Missouri voted against health care, and she voted for it anyway. If that's representing us, I don't get it.
No, by and large, we don't have representatives of us anymore. I agree wholeheartedly with that, and I also agree wholeheartedly with your idea of what it's going to take to rectify this situation. You've got to stop buying things where you pay sales tax. You've got to.
What I suggested is that people exempt themselves from income tax on their W-9s, because you can't expect your employer to hold it back for you, right? But you can exempt yourself out, and then on July 4th, stop paying all taxes. No more land taxes. No more real estate taxes. No more. Stop purchasing things altogether. Stop paying your bank notes and your mortgages and your car payments. I'll tell you what, the pressure that would come on the government from bankers alone when America stops paying all of its debt would be incredible. The mass media, the Ministry of Propaganda, would never cover 25 million Americans camping in Washington, but that's the whole point of making it 25 million. It would be impossible. I don't care what rock you live under, you'd know what was going on. This would be a peaceful, civil, disobedient revolution to take America back.
Yeah, well,
anybody can type in 90 Days That Will Change the World into any browser, and you'll immediately see videos about it and a link on to America's Voice Now on it. I encourage everybody to participate in that, because it's the only way we're ever going to take this nation back. Other than that, we're going to see Agenda 21 implemented, shoved down our throats. We're going to see more tyranny like this.
Agenda 21 implemented.
No, I get it, but it's not going to just be limited here to Missouri and Arkanistan and Missouristan. It's going to start being located all over the United States of America.
Sure.
And we're going to continue to see surveillance by scum like this, like these guys over at the NSA in D.C., who are sitting there capturing and building dossiers on every single American. I've been talking about this stuff for the last 2 years. And, people accuse me of wearing a tinfoil hat, but I have to tell you, apparently a lot of tinfoil hats have been sold in the last month because they're quite popular these days. Now everybody who, was claiming that, this is all nonsense, you're just out there, promoting and pumping nonsense, that now we've found that all of that stuff is actually true.
Yeah, if we could go back a little bit to the Blue Wave. For instance, like a year ago, I made a talk at the Calico Rock City Council, and I was talking about Agenda 21, and one of the council members then did some, quote, research, unquote, and he came up and he said, well, the only thing he could find that was bad about it was the word agenda in it because it then frightens people. And so that tells you the depth of the research that he actually
He didn't even get to the subtitle.
No. These things are all of long standing too. When we talk about health insurance, good grief. The first bill in Congress that was implemented for national health insurance was in 1946, done by Harry Truman.
Yeah.
And he wanted to fund it through payroll deduction. But it would be universal mandatory health insurance throughout the United States. And if you look at, when did health insurance become a right? Not from Nancy Pelosi, but it was in the second Bill of Rights that Franklin Roosevelt presented in his 1944 State of the Union speech.
Right, the Socialist Bill of Rights.
So when we look at these, quote, they're all progressive initiatives, and I'd like to get to that for a second. But that we're talking about it starting with Teddy Roosevelt, but it went on steroids under Franklin Roosevelt. And after World War II, from that point on, it has been an absolutely steady drumbeat, and there have been literally no times in our history since World War II where the progressive agenda has been turned back. It has been halted at times, but not turned back. You got to understand this, that just like with the Ozark Highlands Man and Biosphere, okay, that got halted, but it didn't get turned back. It was always left on the table.
Right.
And they just simply rolled it out after enough time has passed that they think everybody had forgotten it.
Sure.
And then they did it in the dark of night. They did manage to get a couple of politicos from Arkansas to back it. Mark Pryor, for those of you who live in Arkansas, Senator Mark Pryor, he is doubling down like all communists do. By the way, when you hear that term, doubling down, that's so enshrined in history, and that is a socialist, Marxist, communist tactic. They never go back. They double down to push it forward. Mark Pryor, following the standard tactic, is doubling down and saying, this is going to be wonderful for sportsmen and fishermen, that he will not say anything about what it's going to do to the property owners in the Blue Wave.
The Arkanistan Canoe Club, right? What they're primarily pissed off about primarily is the fact that private landowners can block them from having access to the river anywhere they want to go. Well, I'm sorry, but that happens to be the way that, the nation has developed. So, if you don't like that, there's plenty of open places where you can drop a canoe in. And there's no reason for you to say the federal government ought to take over all waterways so that we have open access and we can kick everybody off the river and therefore have unfettered access to it whenever we want to get a canoe out there.
By the way, you also mentioned 100 yards. Actually, in the Blue Way and in the nomination and whatnot, they have in their plan that all waterways and lakes are going to have to be fenced back 180 feet.
Right.
Okay.
From the shorelines. And folks, there you go, people. If you want, there's your first rule. You got to go back 180 feet. We're gonna have to take a break because it's the top of the hour. I just want to mention very quickly before we do that, Black Ops School of Combat has a program going off on the 29th of June, and it's a concealed carry course. It's $75 per person. The course takes 8 hours, and according to Missouri law. And this is going to be held here. You can go to blackopsschoolofcombat.com. Greg McLaughlin is the owner and purveyor there. He's a good friend of mine. And he's a very, very well-skilled pistol smith. He's got a history of expert training. And I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to go see him. You can call him at 255-1612, and we'll be back in just a second.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is KBMV Birch Tree is the Ozarks best news talk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. 3 American soldiers have been killed in eastern Afghanistan, an insider attack.
We had several soldiers who were attending a meeting with Afghan officials, and when they came out of the meeting, they were suddenly being fired upon by 2 individuals wearing Afghan National Army uniforms.
Colonel Thomas Cohen says one of the gunmen was killed, the other was captured. President Obama says, yes, the government is collecting Americans' phone and internet records.
He says Congress passed the law and Congress can change it.
Those members of Congress could raise those issues very aggressively. They're empowered to do so.
American Civil Liberties Union attorney Alex Abda hopes the law is changed, saying stronger safeguards and oversight is needed.
It's not enough simply for Americans to trust that our elected officials and even our federal courts will properly limit the government's surveillance authority.
But changing the law may not be easy, as it also has defenders from both sides of the aisle. At the White House, Mike Makowitz, Fox News Radio.
The former South African President Nelson Mandela is back in the hospital with a lung infection. He's 94.
This is the second time he's been in hospital. The last time was a 10-day stay. But he was in hospital before that, over Christmas. And each time, one would expect, one imagines, a stay in a hospital really does take its toll.
Sky News correspondent Alex Crawford. A 4-year-old boy accidentally shoots and kills his father in northern Arizona. Police in Prescott Valley say they were at a friend's house, that the boy found a gun in the living room and fired it. 35-year-old dad died at the hospital. The son's back with his mother. Flood warnings from Maryland to Maine, with Tropical Storm Andrea now blowing through and petering out.
The main impact is heavy rains north of New Jersey and basically some coastal winds east of that entire area of the northeast.
Lixiana Villa at the National Hurricane Center. You're listening to Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
There's more to Fox News Radio than meets the ear. Go behind the headlines and join the conversation on the hottest stories of the day on the Fox News Radio Facebook page. Be a part of the Fox News Radio Facebook fan community. Post comments and tell us your opinions. See behind-the-scenes photos and videos and post your reactions to the stories that matter to you. Click the like button on Facebook and connect with breaking news and features like Fox in the Fast Lane, House Call for Help, and more. Go to Facebook.com/Fox News Radio.
Weeknights, we're busting out a brand new lineup. First, market fraud, government abuse, corruption. At 5, nothing's off limits on money with Melissa Francis. Then, from bloated bank fees to consumer scams. At 6, Jerry's exposing the issues impacting your wallet. Plus, get smart market insight and trusted analysis you won't find anywhere else. At 7, Lou Dobbs is all business. And the first and last name in business, Cavuto. Shedding light on the biggest stories making headlines at 8. Only on the Fox Business Network, giving you the power to prosper.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington and West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com. Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 107.1 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we expect sunny skies on a high of 79 today. Humidity partly cloudy overnight with a low of 60. There's a good chance of showers and thunderstorms on Sunday. Humidity partly sunny with a high of 81. Monday will kick off the week with mostly sunny skies and a high of 84. Again, today's high 79, and I'm Rod Tanner. And for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Corman, President of Community First. We want to be your bank. We believe in the strength of our communities, businesses, families, and future. We're not just locally owned, but community owned. And we operate today just as we started, by living up to our name, putting you and our communities first.
Living up to our name, community first, banking company.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
It's
It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now. Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right, we're back on live and in living color. You can catch our show streaming every day by going to americasvoicenow.org. On the right side of the page, about 10 inches down, is a button that says Watch Live. You can't miss it. Stevie Wonder and Helen Keller have found the button. You too can. Simply go to your computer, type in americasvoicenow.org, scroll down until you see the button there, click it, it says Watch Live, and you can capture this show streaming live every day, 8 to 9 Monday through Friday, and Saturday 6 to 9 a.m. Our show repeats 8 to 9 at night on Monday through Friday, and you can catch that entire show again if you miss it in the morning. We're speaking with Dave Dougherty this morning, and before we get back to Dave, I just want to finish talking about this concealed carry course that Black Ops School of Combat is operating. It's called the blackopsschoolofcombat.com. You can go to their website. Greg McLaughlin, along with his friend, by the way, Thad Wheeler, have developed the world's fastest technique to clear a double feed malfunction in a semi-auto pistol. The technique also clears the failure to feed and stovepipe in less than 1.5 seconds. It's a world record program. He's the creator of it, and they are actually putting it on film. They're going to be releasing it to the firearms community. This is a revolutionary method of clearing the deadly and often dreaded stovepipe and or double feed jam. And if you're a pistol smith, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is a major development in firearms for those of you who are interested. And Greg is the purveyor of that. He'll make sure that he teaches you that technique when you take a concealed carry course from him. You can get a pistol from him if you need to. If you're short of a revolver, or you have a revolver and you don't have a semi yet, you can borrow or make arrangements with him to utilize one of his. You just have to bring your own .22 ammunition. This is an all-day Saturday program, or they also hold 2 evening classes to get you to your 8-hour minimum that you have to meet in order to meet the requirements of the law. And I strongly encourage you to do that. Please make sure you get a hold of Greg by going to his website at blackopsschoolofcombat.com, or you can call him and arrange a personal training program at 255-1612. That's 255-1612. Now, if you are, he does have a program out there where he can allow you to, if you bring 5 additional people with you, I think that's the number. If you bring 5 additional, so there's a total of 6 people in the class, you will get your class for free. And so you can call Greg and get more details about that at 255-1612. There is a class happening today, so if you don't get him at that number, just leave him a voicemail and he'll call you back as soon as he has a break. 255-1612, or go to blackopsschoolofcombat.com. Okay, so Dave Dougherty and America's Voice were talking this morning in reference to issues that are surrounding the Blueways and Agenda 21's implementation, and we are referencing how they are utilizing this, how they're usurping authority to basically steal from the people in the states of Missouristan and Arkanistan 18 million, that's million, folks, acres of land, which they are going to now promulgate all kinds of land use regulation on, energy use regulations on, and so forth. You know, Dave, when we were on that conference call, and I know you were on it last week, where we this plan to try to fight this project, there was a guy who brought up something that was interesting, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. Are you familiar with the idea of a land patent or the allodial title?
Yes,
allodial deed?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how that affects that. This guy seemed pretty adamant about the fact that if you have a what's called a land patent in some places, or the allodial deed in other places, that the federal government cannot do anything to touch your land. As a historian, are you familiar with that issue?
I am. And I applaud the individual for bringing that up. That's an interesting tactic. I personally don't think that is feasible and will work. But, at this point, we need to try everything. Because even though I might say I don't think that's going to be valid, it may.
Right.
I mean,
it may take a court battle, but ultimately you
it
may
will
find
take
that...
a court battle. I mean, we're into a court battle now on the Blueway.
Right,
I mean,
agreed.
I don't think we can stop the Blueway at this point other than through the courts. But I could be wrong. We could have our very cowardly politicians really rise up because they fear for their jobs and get it stopped. But it will take, I mean, literally an uprising here in this area.
Right.
Mark Pryor, for instance, he's still going. Now, he avoids coming into the Blueway area, but because he lives in Little Rock, so he's not in it.
How convenient.
So he avoids us, but he can't write off 1.2 million people and expect to get reelected. So,
right. Isn't it shameful that seems to be the only motivating factor to get a politician to do the right thing, is whether or not they're going to get reelected, which, flies
That's the
in
only motivation they ever have. And it's only for the next election. They don't care about getting elected 2 elections from now. All they're doing is getting elected the next time. Everything is very short term.
And they know that most people, especially because a senator is a 6-year slot, they know that the attention span of most Americans is 8 minutes, not 6 years.
Yeah, so they only have to do that in the last year. But Mark Pryor is up for election this time.
Yep. What's his next election date?
2014.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to tell you, you Arcanistans, I'm telling you right now, fight back against this piece of garbage. Get him out of that office, because he is the worst possible thing that you could have when you need a fight like this. When we have to fight this Blueways thing, he is the worst possible candidate. And frankly, I'm for repealing the 17th Amendment altogether and putting the conditions of putting a senator into office back in the hands of the legislature,
Absolutely. That
who
was
then
a terrible amendment.
he or she is accountable to. And because frankly, electing a representative and then supra-electing an overlay duplicative position of a senator is it's an oxymoron. Our founders never intended for your senator to be elected by the people. Because the senator doesn't represent the people. The senator represents the state's interests.
Exactly.
The federal representative.
And that's why he was elected by the state legislature.
Should be.
Well, originally it was.
Before the 17th, but Mark Pryor wasn't in office before the 17th Amendment.
No, I know. Yeah.
I don't think Mark Pryor was born before the 17th Amendment.
There are other amendments too. Like you got to look at the 14th Amendment. People, I get hit by this all the time. People say, "Well, we have the 10th Amendment, which reserves all the rights to the states and the people."
Right.
And I usually say, "Well, you have to understand that the court has essentially held that was overruled by the 14th Amendment."
Yeah, but you see, here's the problem. We can say those things, but here's what it really boils down to. When you peel all the nonsense away, here's what we're left with. We, the people, are the final arbiters of the Constitution, not the court. And honestly, this whole argument about 10th Amendment sovereignty and individual state independence, that is a foundational principle which we should all be hanging our hats upon. And we should be turning around and saying, and this is going to be the crux of the battle that we have going forward to preserve our republic. Whether or not American citizens stand up and say, the 10th Amendment placed this nation on a position of equal balance of power between the states and the federal government. And the federal government's power is limited to those enumerated areas in which
let me go one step further. It didn't place them on equal footing. It placed the states on a greater footing.
Well, equal footing only in those areas where the federal government has been delegated authority. In other words, where the federal government's been delegated authority, they're on equal footing. Everywhere that the federal government has not been delegated authority, and that those areas of authority have been clearly enumerated, then the states are superior.
Yeah.
So they're either equal or superior in every instance.
All the way from 1947, that the 14th Amendment and Everson versus the Board of Education was the first one where that was explicitly stated. And since that time, they have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down on that. So if you go into a court case, the 14th Amendment will override the 10th Amendment. And that's just a statement of fact. Now, I don't disagree with anything you say that should be the foundation of a lot of our actions. I'm just going to tell you that if we're depending on the courts to pull us out of this problem, they won't.
Oh, I get it.
Because they're going to take the 14th Amendment as overriding the 10th.
Well, that's when Americans need to rise up and march in numbers down to Washington, camp out there, and say, we're not leaving until you do. And we're not going to leave this area. We are going to stay here. I have a whole article on this, which is, posted up on America's Voice Now. And basically, here's the mantra. We're not leaving until you do. And we, the freedom and liberty, we the people is all of us, not some elitist, cadre or oligarchy that sits in Washington and dictates what we're supposed to do. See, a complete and total freeze of all commerce and taxation in this country will be impossible to hide for the media. And here's the important part. Every individual in our nation would be forced to take notice of what's going on, including the Ministry of Propaganda, which has completely abdicated all responsibility towards intellectual honesty and journalistic integrity. But the mass media would be the first to try to ignore it. Thankfully, there have to be enough citizens that they can't ignore it, and there are alternative media sources like you and like me. You and your radio program, me and mine, and all of these journalists that are considered bloggers now, which is like a lower form of that's kind of like practicing law without a license to the journalists who are officially trained. But anyway, the alternative media sources will cover the planet with the news that America is in a peaceful, civil disobedient revolt. And the mantra that will go out is those crazy Americans are taking their nation back for the second time. State governments would be the first ones to capitulate, and here's why. They can't print money, and they live hand to mouth, just like the average American. If they do not have sales tax and land tax funding
and wealth tax.
And wealth tax.
Arkansas has a wealth tax. It's called personal property tax.
Right, we do too here. And once that monetary resource is frozen and not available to them, they will literally be bereft of funds within days, not even weeks or months. Now, the federal government can print money, and we can talk more about this when we come back.
Yeah, but Michael, the first thing we have to do is get people really upset. I mean, this is all well and good, but, when I read this stuff on the Blue Way, for instance, and I'm reading this postmortem study, and it's saying, we have to avoid the people. We have to hold off on letting them know anything, because otherwise they're going to object, and they might be able to sink it before we really get it in place.
And that's the same exact...
something like that is so anti the people, everybody should rise up.
And be in arms. Hang on one second. We'll be right back.
The better the taste to bring to you the greatest tasting pastries possible. At Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, we use organic, locally sourced, and natural ingredients of the highest quality. Every item is handcrafted and baked fresh for you each and every day. Visit Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, number 2 Evans Arcade on the Courthouse Square in downtown West Plains. Or call ahead 255-2253. Be sure to like and follow Chantilly's Artisan Bakery on Facebook.
Out of 365 days a year, we celebrate holidays, anniversaries, and other important days. But there is one day you look forward to, your birthday.
I wanna wish you a happy birthday.
Ryan's Steakhouse of West Plains is proud to bring you the Birthday Club weekday mornings with Cooper & Company. Our daily winner receives one buffet and a drink to Ryan's. Just call your birthdays in weekday mornings with Cooper & Company at 255-0427. Brought to you by Ryan's and the Ozarks Best News Talk.
And happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. Cha.
All right, we're back. It's a short break on the quarter after. The issue here of what we're talking about is America becoming incensed about what's going on. We have a caller from Arkansas who wants to share with us their thought on this issue. And go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Well, I didn't really know that I was on the show. I just calling because we're down here in Arkansas trying to stop this Blue Way issue. And I wanted to ask if it would be possible to use your YouTube video for other radio stations, because it's one of the best things I've ever heard as far as explanation, motivation, education, and all rolled into one. And I know, because I'm in education, that it would be helpful if other people could hear that, because one of our biggest problems on this issue, as other issues, is education. No one knows about this Blueway issue.
Right. Well, by all means, here's why we do the show streaming live. One, I'm not syndicated, so this plays in our market, right? And the second issue is that it allows a lot of people from all over the United States to capture and watch the show live every day. And so we allow those folks to be able to capture the live stream. We also record it, and then we post it up on YouTube for people to share and catch if they can't, if they miss the show for some reason. Now, by all means, anyone can play those videos. They're up on YouTube. They're welcome for all to use and all to pay attention to. And we encourage you to share that information with your friends. You can send them a link to that show, and they, one on the Blueways as an example, and allow them to actually watch the show live, including this one that we're doing this morning with Dave.
Yeah,
and
hey, Michael, I'm back.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I apologize. I hit the wrong button. So what we can do is, or what you can do as a listener, is you can actually share that with your friends by sending an email link to anyone that's in your circle of influence. Now, if other radio stations want to pick it up, I'm more than welcome. I mean, I don't copyright anything. It's for open distribution. So if you've got a radio station that you want them to play that, a particular program, especially one on this Blueways thing, because, you're in Arkansas and you might have influence with a radio station there, by all means, please do that.
Right.
If you can get them to put it up on there.
I've already done what you said initially, send it out to my little email list of people. I've already done that.
I got you.
But
thank you.
A lot of people don't have computers, and they do listen to radio, and so this is my idea to get it out to those people.
I got you. Well, if you don't have a computer, you can strip the audio off of that and just make it, or you can burn it to a DVD, download the whole darn thing and burn it to a DVD and hand it out to some folks.
That's what I'm planning to do next.
You can strip the audio off of that, and you can literally, then send that audio to a local radio station and ask them to do a special show on it.
You also need to get a hold of every elected representative you can. I mean, everyone.
Absolutely.
Every level.
Well, for the record, caller, what we've agreed to do when we were on this call last week is one of the things that we're doing is we're putting together a resolution that is going to go to in Missouri here. It's going to go to each of there's 3 county commissioners in each county, and we have 23 counties that are covered under this thing. And so the goal is to have every one of these county commissioners sign off on this resolution that says this is unconstitutional and you don't have the right to do it, and so forth and so on. And, we're the final purveyors of what happens for land use rights and energy rights and water rights in our counties. The second issue is to get a second resolution that comes from the representatives of our state, the state House and the state Senate, and have them sign off on one as well. And then the third issue is to put together a resolution with law enforcement that where law enforcement can actually put together a commitment that any federal overreach or oversight that's accomplished in our given marketplace, they will be arrested for trespassing for coming onto this property. Now, I encourage you folks in Arkansas to do the same thing. I know you use a different system down there. It's called a quorum court.
Quorum court. But we're currently passing that out. We have a resolution that you can pick up at Survive USA. We also have a letter that you can use for all of your elected representatives. I'd like to make one other comment on that, Michael.
Please.
Yeah, people say, well, they don't write very well. Well, do you really believe that, our elected representatives can spell too? I mean, the answer is you need to do volume. When you write letters, first off, don't write to Washington, D.C. Letters there are now routinely held for up to 6 weeks for security checking.
Right.
So
we're checking it for ricin and anthrax and all that other crap.
July. So if you write to Washington, your representative's not even going to see it until afterwards.
Right.
Well, so you need to write them at every one of their offices. And not only that, write them every day. And if it's just a paragraph or two, tell them that you're opposed to this. What they do is they amass statistics, and they use a multiplier of 10. So if they get 10 letters in an office, multiplier of 100, they get 10 letters in an office, they're going to say to themselves, I have 1,000 of my constituents that are upset about this.
Right, that are mad as hell.
They're mad as hell. And, fine, sign your own name, but then send the letter tomorrow with your wife's name. Send the letter the following day with your son's name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
You must absolutely bury them with communications.
And email, by the way,
better than letters.
Email is
also.
Email is good, but I have to tell you, I've spoken to many legislators about this topic, and I've asked them directly, what's the most effective? Is it a phone call, an email, or a letter? And they all say that a handwritten letter is the very best method. And the reason why a handwritten letter is so good, now we're not talking about going to federal now. We're talking about going to your state representatives and your state senators and your county commissioners. Because when they get a handwritten letter, they immediately say, this person took the time and put the effort forth to put their thoughts on paper. Now, it doesn't have to be War and Peace, and you don't want it to actually be, you want it to be
very long.
a couple of
2 pages.
2 paragraphs is good.
Yeah,
right?
Or even just one.
One paragraph. I absolutely think that this is extra constitutional. You have no authority for this. We want you to stand up and interpose on our behalf, and we are demanding that you do so as our elected representative. And if you don't do that,
that's why it's unconstitutional. Number one, the water that is not navigable, the waterways and the water that's not navigable in all states are under the control of the states, not the federal government.
Right. And none of this area,
important.
For the record here, Dave, and let me just point this out, none of this watershed that they're talking about, the White River Basin, none of it is navigable water. Navigable water is ocean or the Mississippi River, not this body this area that we're talking about.
Actually, the White River is navigable as far north as Newport, and it is considered, and it is under the control of the Army Corps of Engineers, actually just south of Batesville. So it does go that far north, and the Black, which is in there, actually goes up to Pocahontas, and that's under the Corps of Engineers. But all the rest, and every bit of Missouri, is not under their control. So it's absolutely unconstitutional for the feds to be doing this because it's a usurpation of state control. Now, let me tell you one more thing. That in Arkansas, and I'm not sure about Missouri on this, Michael, the Arkansas quorum courts, the county, have the authority to generate land use plans. And if they have a land use plan, they then are the defining element, and the federal government cannot come in with a plan without the approval of the county quorum court and integrating their plan with the local land use plan. So by putting in this Blueway without consulting a single quorum court, they have then thumbed their nose at the Arkansas state constitution and the authority of your local officials.
Right.
And on those 2 points, this thing is absolutely off the rails.
But what it's going to take is a massive uprising of the 3 or 4 million people that live here who are going to have to stand up and say, I am not accepting this. I am rejecting it. You will. I'm not asking you to. You will reject this as my representative, whether you're a county commissioner or whether you are a judge or whether you are a sheriff or whether you're a police department or whatever you are, whether you're a state representative, a state senator, etc. I'm demanding that you support and protect me as a citizen. And
Let me give you a couple other things. In Arkansas, it's already happening where we have federal people coming on land, protecting wetlands. It happened down west of Little Rock here, actually not in the Blueway, but it's exactly the same thing, where a fellow came onto his land, and there were a couple of government guys there, and he said, well, you're on private property. And they said, no, the problem is this rut that you have here in your road is causing erosion, and so we now have authority over this because of the way the water works on that rut in your road.
Right.
And
exactly. So
from
now
that point on,
But this is going to cover every pond. I mean, your pond that your cattle are watering out of, you're going to have to build a fence around that pond 180 feet back from it. Because otherwise they can say that you're affecting the water quality that, 100 miles downstream. We're going to take it.
It's even worse than that, though, Michael. In there, they talk about we may have to take private property and affect private property next to our government property.
Right, for an extra take right. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. Hang on a second. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. 3 U.S. service members shot and killed in Afghanistan in a possible insider attack.
We had several soldiers who were attending a meeting with Afghan officials, and when they came out of the meeting, they were suddenly being fired upon by 2 individuals wearing Afghan National Army uniforms.
ISAF spokesman Colonel Thomas Collins in Kabul telling Fox News Radio it's not confirmed whether the suspects were actually Afghan soldiers. One of them was killed, the other captured. The first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season blamed for 1 traffic-related death in Virginia. Andrea, soaking parts of the eastern seaboard.
North Miami Beach, 14 inches of rain from this. In Central Park, almost 5 inches. Tawana, Virginia, over 7 inches. And we are still dealing with the remnants. The very last part of this rain is moving out across areas of Maine. Almost done there.
Fox meteorologist Rick Reichmuth. Fox News, we report, you decide.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Wits End Classic Barbershop, who is the sponsor of our telephone lines this morning. They're located on the square in West Plains. It's Wits End Classic Barbershop. Thanks to our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. You can find them on the web at westplainspawn.com. They can be reached at 417-256-3000, and they're located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. 400 guns undercover. Pizza Hut, our friends down there on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch menu with salad, pizza, and pasta. Excellent opportunity for you to have a great lunch and eat well and something tasty. Our friends over at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com. Telephone 417-257-7799. Our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance can be found on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. My friend Brian there can be reached at 870-492-4030. They're located a half mile east of Walmart at 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's right off the square in West Plains at 2 Evans Arcade, and you can reach her at 255-2253. And my friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction. If you're considering doing remodeling, custom or new construction, or anything like commercial, give Bill a call and have him bid on your project at 293-0116.
Movies from 1999.
It moves like it has a mind. Like it knows it killed the world once. It got a taste for murder.
Can you name that movie?
That is Deep Blue Sea.
Robin Willis Springs. Do you have a belt right now? I mean, you should be putting notches in your belt for everyone you win.
I'll have to think about doing that, yeah.
All right. Hey, Rob, we appreciate your call this morning.
All right, thanks a lot.
Join Cooper and Company weekday morning 6 to 8 a.m. here on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we expect sunny skies on a high of 79 today. Unity Party cloudy overnight with a low of 60. There's a good chance of showers and thunderstorms on Sunday. Unity Party sunny with a high of 81. Monday will kick off the week with mostly sunny skies and a high of 84. Again, today's high 79, and I'm Rod Tanner. And for more information, visit my 1071thepoint.com.
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt on the next Hugh Hewitt Show. I am back from Boston. I bring you word of what happens to liberals 35 years after they graduate from the Kremlin on the Charles. I caught up with all those people who spent all their time trying to run your lives better than you know you can run it yourself. I'll give you the debrief on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Sundays from 6 till 7, following Money Talk with Bob Brinker, it's the Weekend Journal with Hugh Hewitt on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
All right, we are back. I am, for those of you who are watching on live streaming, I am wearing my tinfoil hat right now. This is part of our project, which we put a contest out there for those who want to create a tinfoil hat for our program. This is the XM21, and I am now the proud owner of a brand new XM21 Constitutional Crusader helmet. Now, you don't see this unless you're watching our streaming video, but I'll put up pictures on our Facebook page about it. Basically, the helmet is equipped with 2 high-power antennas. The one on the right intercepts right-wing signals and will be active some of the time. Expect it to intercept complaining and whining on these channels, such as, well, it was a bipartisan effort. The right-wing antenna also intercepts HS and CS, such as the new immigration bill is great. Do not expect to hear any communications, such as, quote, we will control the deficit before any immigration bill is passed, end quote. The right antenna will heat up as the mention of letter combinations such as AP, FBI, BATF, or IRS is mentioned. But expect this condition to pass quickly. Watch out for smoke screens that emanate from the right antenna. The antenna on the left will exhibit constant static. Doesn't work, has never worked, and will never work, although it will take your money and give it to someone else who hasn't earned it and doesn't deserve it. If any understandable communication comes through the left antenna, it will involve involved and pedantic rhetoric which will make any taxpayer's head hurt immediately. If the left antenna falls off in a low-income inner-city neighborhood, please try to find it right away before it attempts to organize the area. When walking past any welfare office or Planned Parenthood center, the left antenna will start acting like a divining rod and try to pull the wearer into the building via professional courtesy. Your XM21 Constitutional Crusader helmet is also equipped with a star and stripe pinwheel, stars and bars pinwheel. This pinwheel will alert the wearer to the presence of any politician, Republican or Democrat, as it will start to rotate rapidly at the presence of any small amount of hot air. The pinwheel is only certified to a maximum wind speed of 150 miles an hour, so its effectiveness in the presence of any state house or Washington, D.C. may be relative. The front of the helmet is equipped with an HS and CS shield, which may be worn in the up or down position. It is recommended that when the pinwheel begins to spin, the user immediately pull the shield into the down position for protection. The shield is capable of withstanding HS or CS for a limited amount of pontificating until the shield is saturated and therefore will have to be replaced. Politically incorrect motivational stickers have been placed on the helmet to try to offend as large an audience as possible. These stickers are to ward off the easily offended or otherwise mentally or emotionally incapable persons who have no business talking to a constitutional crusader under any circumstances. Congratulations. Wear your your constitutional crusader helmet with pride, but beware, few people know much about the Constitution, much less about who the crusaders actually were. So I will retire and finish the rest of the show in my crusader helmet. We do have a couple of callers, Dave, and I don't know if you're catching this on live video, but it's actually kind of interesting. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Excuse me. Subject. It's fine and dandy that you have a operator instruction for your helmet there, but do you have a license? Please produce your license now, or forever remove your hat.
I don't have a license, and I absolutely defy you to demand that I have one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is Mark calling from Philadelphia, all the way over in Philadelphia. And yes, folks, his show is that good. I heard about his show, and I'm listening to it, and I'm watching it. So
is this the Crusader helmet or what?
Yes, the Crusader helmet.
Okay.
So fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. His name is King George, and he still lives. He never left. And we have evidence of that because we're all running around as if we actually own our properties. We're carrying those dollars in our pockets and in our purses. We possess them. We worked hard for them, and we think that we own them, but no, we merely possess them. How do we know? Because they're now just promissory notes, and they come with debt attached. They're not something of value, and if the government wants to, it can strip away that value at any moment in time. So that's evidence of what they think about us. And the other evidence is that they also think that they own our language and own the words that we speak, because after the Second Amendment is the First Amendment before the Second, and evidence of that is in the Hirschberger trial up in Wisconsin. The judge ruled that there were certain words that couldn't be spoken during the court process. So there we have evidence of that, and they're going to push for that too. But anyway, I wanted to the issue of the senator that Dave brought up is the senators, to me, my understanding is that they were meant to be as if they were ambassadors from a foreign country going to the delegation known as D.C. And so when they removed when they changed the deal with the senators, that is when they destroyed the sovereignty of the states, but maybe not totally. But anyway,
certainly
I wanted to.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry. Say that again.
I just said it certainly affected it, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Hit your last point on Blueways, Mark, and then I've got like a bank of callers all dying to get on.
Okay, sure. So what I wanted to bring up is the deal about I called many people in Missouri who are outside your terrestrial radio area and got them to listen into your conference call. And several of them were left with not really knowing what to do. So a simple action plan would be in order to activate the citizenry.
Got it. And so thank you very much for that call, and let me address that issue, because that is exactly what we're working on. But there is two ways that people can kind of keep up with what's happening there. One, they can go to prcnews.org. That's P like Peter, R like Romeo, and C like Charlie, prcnews.org. And there are things posted up there that people can be, kind of kept up to abreast with what's going on. And then the second issue is every one of us can immediately start taking action by getting a hold, as Dave and I were talking about earlier, by getting a hold of our representatives in our counties and in our cities and in our towns and in our state houses. Because it's critically important that they be made aware of exactly what the issues are. And
by the way, the first time you call and you get one of these guys, many times they're going to tell you, oh, I haven't heard anything about that. Okay, that's a lie, but that's okay. Let them have that little lie, and you go ahead and inform them.
There you go. And make sure that you're educating them properly. Have an email or one of these talking points documents that we've created directly in front of you so that you can make sure that you address them. Go ahead, caller, quickly.
Yes, I just want to say the best way to kill a snake is to go for the head. And in a way, you're chasing the tail of the snake through the brush when you're going after all these regulations out of Washington and so forth. The head of the snake is Barack Obama, who holds office unconstitutionally. If you have 25
but we can't deal with that before July 6th.
Right.
That's the simple truth, and I get it. Listen, I'm all for. I watched the documentation at CSPOA that showed us that Obama's birth certificate is a fraud, and so is his selective service card.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. That's not the topic of this show, however, because what we need to do is solve this problem immediately, and this problem immediately is before July 6th. We've got to stop the Blueways. We can't, and nobody is going to be able to take Barack Obama out between now and July 6th. Through some impeachment process or any other process.
Well, if you have 25 million people in Washington for July 4th, they ought to be holding signs, repeal Obama.
I don't disagree with that, but we're not going to get results in 2 days. So what we can do today is what we can fight right now is the Blueways, while simultaneously fighting the issue of Barack Obama's illegitimacy. And that's a whole different topic. We can have that show another day.
Well,
this one is Blueways.
I was at City Hall when Roy Blunt's representative was there the other day. I didn't see anybody else there. But I opposed both the Blueways and the tenure.
What did they say about it?
Well, there's a representative there who said she had heard about the Blue. I asked her if she had heard about the birth certificate much, the cold case posse in Arizona and so forth. She hadn't heard about that. Didn't know anything about it.
What did they say about Blueways?
Well, she said, this is the representative from Blunt, and she said she had heard about Blueways. But that's all she said, that she'd heard about it. Well, I told her what I knew about it and told her it was not the way America worked. And so she said she would, she took notes, but there was nobody else there. I was the only one there.
Do you have a phone number and an email for her?
Yeah.
Email it to me.
Okay. I've got her name, and she gave me her card and so forth.
Thanks.
But those are two issues that go together.
I don't disagree.
Go for the head of the snake, Mike.
I'm going for the whole damn snake.
All right.
I'm shooting buckshot here, so thank you.
You bet.
Right. Yeah, but if we don't get this Blueway out, look.
I get it. The rest of it ain't going to matter.
Have cattle. cattle are unsustainable under Agenda 21, as are all grazing animals.
Right.
So you have grazing animals like cattle. Sooner or later, the feds are going to say they have to go.
Go ahead.
It's that simple.
Go ahead, caller, quickly now. You got seconds. Make your point. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, make your point quickly now.
Yeah, we need to have a conference call every week until we get this thing done. That way we can monitor how many people are following, if our movement's growing. That's what we need to do. Thanks.
Good point. Thank you. And we can
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think we should probably talk with our organizational groups about that, including Ike and Doreen and you and Mike Kaufman and so forth. Okay, folks, we're going to take a break. Dave, when we come back, I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about a little bit about your show, and then we'll drop off because we're almost at the end of our show for the day.
I understand. Okay.
Folks, we'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now, and you can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org and on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. This and every other program at youtube.com/America's Voice Now.
I saw a penguin fly out of a U.S. Cellular store with a new Samsung Galaxy smartphone. Sounds crazy, but U.S. Cellular's offering $100 off a new Samsung Galaxy phone. If that's crazy, I'm a loon.
Switch to U.S. Cellular and say hello to the Galaxy S4 for only $99.99 or the Samsung Galaxy S3 for free. U.S. Cellular. Hello better. After $100 mail-in rebate that comes as a MasterCard debit card, applicable data plan required, new 2-year agreement, and $35 device activation fee may apply. Certain restrictions apply. See store for details.
Do you owe more on your home than it's worth? Maybe HARPS can help. HARP Refinance mortgage loans address this property value issue in most cases. No appraisal needed. Higher debt ratios are acceptable. Call the Center for Sound Consumer Advice today. 1-800-819-6545. Get the free consumer protection guide. HARPS, everything you need and had better know. Free while they last. To anyone who asks. Call 1-800-819-6545.
My name is Manny Morales. I'm 45 and I coach youth football. It's still hard to believe because the high school me
was a work in progress. But Big Brothers Big Sisters give me a real role model. And the young me
needed a role model bad. My big brother's name is Ray. And Ray is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a role model himself.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child. Start something today at BigBrothersBigSisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
There's one man on this earth who really, truly gets it.
You know what's going on with the IRS scandal today, Mr. Producer? Nothing. So all the politicians left town, the bureaucrats went home early, the government has shut down except for essential workers. Congratulations, you're free. You're free for the weekend. No EPA to harass you. We ought to look at the weekend as just little windows each week of liberty.
Weeknights from 5 till 8, Mark Levin on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
All right, folks, we're back. I just want to take a few minutes and let Dave refresh your memory about his show. He has a show which plays on 97.1. That's Mountain Talk down in Mountain Home. And you can listen to him on Sundays between 1 and 2 p.m. He has a show down there called Through the Looking Glass. And Dave is a well-known fighter against Agenda 21 and now specifically this Blueways thing. He's also the author of a book called A Patriot's History of the Modern World. And I think you'll find that Dave's show is very similar to ours in the sense that we're both out here as staunch defenders and crusaders because I'm wearing my crusader helmet. And, the simple truth is that the XM21 crusader helmet enables me to be on the same level as Dave. We fight against tyranny and oppression on a national scale, but also on a local scale. Dave is also the owner of SurviveUSA, and you can find that website at SurviveUSA.biz. They have a retail location down there in Arkanistan, and but also they have products that you can purchase on the web. So if you can get to SurviveUSA.biz, you'll certainly find some products there I'm sure that you can use. Dave, you do your shows on Sunday, am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. And by the way, this Sunday is going to be on liberal lies. I'm working on a new book, 51 Liberal Lies from Education, because as everybody should know now, Common Core is a terrible abomination, going to dumb down our kids by a year and a half. and it's going to teach them to be good serfs in the socialist plantation.
Sure. Hey, is
I'll
there
be talking about that, and then next Sunday I'm back on the Blueway, and I'll be going through the nomination and the claims that were made in the nomination, and how all of this is really bad for you. You know, one of the things that I get, Michael, a lot is people say, well, what's really going to happen with this? Well, they're going to regulate you into oblivion.
Right.
Sooner or later, they're going to force you off your land. If you have cattle, it's going to come faster than if you don't. But this is part also of the wildlands restoration project, where 50% of the Earth's surface, not the water, but the landmass, is to be returned back to wildlife habitat.
Yep,
and
that's the goal.
They want to essentially move all of us out of this area eventually, and that's the goal. That's the long-term plan. And you look at the short-term stuff. They start off with 30,000 acres here, 50,000 acres there, et cetera, et cetera. And I started to say earlier that they have this logic that they have to take my land in order to protect their land. And then after they have my land, then they've got to get your land to protect my land. Then later they have to have your land or somebody else's land to protect your land.
Exactly.
That's how it'll happen. It is simply a stepwise process until they have it all. So you may enjoy this area right now, but do not, if this goes through, do not plan on living here for the long term, because it isn't going to happen.
I got it.
And if that doesn't get your juices going, I don't know what will.
Right. Well, our listeners are pretty adamant about making sure that they're awake and aware. And, you know, they're the kind of folks that are out there, not, as Mark said, there's a guy out in Philadelphia who watches our show every day. And he is a staunch fighter. I mean, I see his emails, and he sends them out in volume to all kinds of legislators and people, media communications and connections and all kinds of things. So that's exactly what we're here for, Dave. We're here to wake the American people up and help them recognize where we're at. And listen, I proudly wear my Crusader helmet because the simple truth is that, a year ago, Dave, everybody was accusing me of wearing a tinfoil hat for some of the things I was talking about with Agenda 21 and surveillance. Well, now these my Crusader helmets in vogue. If we can put these Crusader helmets, the XM21, into high production, we can probably sell millions of them and then retire to our own private island somewhere. Yeah. Because they're in vogue now.
What was surprising to me, I just started my radio program a year ago last August, and I didn't really have high expectations of it, but as it happens, believe it or not, I've turned out to become the most popular show down there, and that's a Fox affiliate, like you're on.
Right.
And they have the other guys, but
you got to find some room down there for my show to help to have them carry mine, because you and I together would be the duo from the dynamic duo.
Yeah, we just have to move it from early morning because I don't really wake up until about 11 o'clock. And I do all my work really between like 9 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock in the morning. So this 6, 7 o'clock stuff, boy, I'll tell you.
I got you. Well, you know what? We're going to let you go because then you can go back and take a nap, and then get started on your evening drill. So, hey, thanks so much for joining with us, Dave.
Well,
I appreciate
it. Michael. I greatly appreciated the opportunity to be on your show.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Folks, that was Dave Dougherty. He is the owner of Survive USA. You can get to his website at SurviveUSA.biz. And you can also hear him on 97.1 Mountain Talk. That's out of Mountain Home. And so by all means, do yourself a favor and catch Dave's show on Sundays between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. And I'm sure you'll find that informative and gather a lot of information and knowledge and wisdom from that. Okay, we're getting ready to wrap our show. We're going to open the phone lines up for a couple of quick calls if there's anybody out there who would like to comment. If there's anybody who is capturing our stream live and you'd like to call us, you can call us at 257-1111. That's 417-257-1111. I'd like to hear your comments on the XM21. If you are outside of our listening area and you're capturing this via stream, you can call us toll-free at 866-554-6636. That's 866-554-6636. And we've got about 5 minutes till we wrap the show. Do want to make a quick mention that the Ozark, the 26th annual West Plains Car Club is having their Wheels and Deals car show today. They're going to have that at the West Plains Civic Center. It's going on now, and it'll be running all day. So please make sure that you avail yourself of the opportunity to take yourself and your family down here and spend a little bit of time getting an opportunity to see some antique and older cars, some classics. Be a great opportunity for you to spend some time, meaningful family time together, especially if you've got sons or daughters. You can talk to them about some of the historical aspects of it and that kind of thing. And also, please make sure that you get a hold of Greg McLaughlin from Black Ops School of Combat. You can find him at the blackopsschoolofcombat.com, and he has a location in West Plains. They're running concealed carry classes. The next one that he has scheduled, he's got one today, and then he's got another one scheduled for the 29th that you can participate in. It runs from 8 o'clock, and it runs an 8-hour program. And the cost is $75 per person. And he also will do a 2-day, 2-evening during the week class, because that way he can split the 8 hours into 4 hours and 4 hours. And if you would like to schedule a program up, give Greg a call. You can reach him at 255-1612. That's 417-255-1612. And make sure that you ask him about his special program, because if you book a class for you and 5 friends, he will let that you or the individual who's organizing it take the class for free. So you and 5 friends, for a total of 6 people, he will allow the coordinator of that class to take the class for free. It's kind of a thank you. So make sure that you get a hold of Greg. He is an excellent pistol trainer, by the way. And I know Greg personally. I've known him for years. He has a resume that will blow your doors off. He's got a lot of history and a lot of knowledge, and he's trained military, law enforcement, private security, all kinds of things. And I think you'll be impressed with his knowledge and wisdom. He's also created a brand new they've developed the world's fastest technique to clear a double feed malfunction in a semi-auto pistol. And the technique also clears a failure to fire and the dreaded stovepipe in less than 1.5 seconds. And Greg will teach you that technique, which, by the way, for the record, this is world record type stuff. We're talking about clearing a double feed malfunction in less than 1.5 seconds. If you're not familiar, I have to tell you that the double feed and malfunction is oftentimes they call that the death jam, because when your pistol jams like that, you're dead before you get to clear it. And Greg has designed and developed a brand new technique that will clear that in 1.5 seconds flat. It's absolutely stunning, and I've seen him do it, and I'm telling you, you'll be very impressed. Get a hold of him at 255-1612. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Hi. I have a question. Now, what about the land that is people who have their land adjoining with any of these Mark Twain forests? Will that be taken also? Somebody had told me that they will have these detention camps set up, and I don't know if it's at every national forest or not, but they said that they will be taking over the residencies that are adjoining or next to the Mark Twain forest. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything to that effect. I can tell you that this Blueways area incorporates a lot of the areas where the national forest is in Missouri, at any rate, like the Mark Twain. And because they'll have complete land use authority and autonomy as to how it's used and energy use and land use and so forth and so on, effectively they'll have dictatorial control over it. In addition to that, this Blueways designation says that they can choose and pick land that is adjacent to the 18 million acres they've taken so that they can further build a buffer zone around that. So what's starting out as 18 million acres may well turn out to be 30 or 40 million acres when this is all said and done. And again, if you jump on our website at americasvoicenow.org, right on the first story that we've got posted up there, I've got a map of what the actual Agenda 21 plan looks like for the United States of America. Folks, it covers 70% of America with either extraordinarily limited or you have to get permission to use these zones. These are core zones with little to no human use and then highly regulated use in red and yellow. When you look at them, there's nothing left, really. So recognize that this is the game plan, to force all of us out of our property and to turn the nation back into this pristine wilderness. And thank you for that call. I appreciate it.
Sure, thanks.
Folks, that's the end of our show for today. You can catch us Monday morning. Make sure that you send some friends over our way. You can catch us on YouTube at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Have a great day. We'll see you on Monday morning, bright and early.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.